Welcome to the finals of Yeetkere Invitational. And today we are having matches between Yashas and Mukund. And first we'll have a semi-finals round. Yesterday we had the preliminaries, and in the preliminaries we had like a round robin system where 10 of the players battled 4 games against each other, and at the end we counted the points and the top 4 were sent to the semi-finals. So now in the semi-finals we have Yash, Mukund, Srujan and Bhuvan. And Yash and Mukund, Yashas was in the first place and Mukund on the 4th, and so Yashas versus Mukund and Srujan versus Bhuvan is happening today. The semi-finals round is going to be a knockout round, and whoever wins is going to proceed to the finals. And the finals, we're going to have a match of 2 games. And in the 2 games, if one person emerges to be a clear victor, we will just announce the victor. Otherwise, if there's a tie, we will be getting into an Armageddon where we will have a match where white will get 5 minutes and black will get 4 minutes. And if white has to win, it has to be a clear win and not a draw or a stalemate. And black just needs a draw to win the game. So with that said, I think we can proceed on to the games. They will be starting at any moment. Okay, so we are waiting on board 1. The first game, Yashas versus Mukund. Yashas, who is Paisa, whose username is Paisa, and Mukund are playing on the first board. And on the second board, we have Bhuvan versus Srujan Gowda. Yashas had a very fine tournament this time, and he has a perfect score in the preliminaries. He won all 4 of his games. And we didn't have trouble with the tournament at all, because the first place was got 4 points, Yashas, and Bhuvan got 3.5 points, and Srujan with 3 points, and Mukund with 2.5 points. So it was the competition was very close, and we had a very entertaining day yesterday. E4 played in Bhuvan versus Srujan. The Italian game is on the board. And in this game we have a Sicilian defense proceeded by a direct fianchetto. Instead of going for the center, Bhuvan decides to go for a fianchetto right away. And the F pawn is pushed immediately. I think this should be problematic. If takes here and takes with this, then it won't be a problem. And I'm looking at even this move. with ideas of queen h5, and he'll have to prevent it with this then. And still the game is going to get ugly. If he takes and takes with the pawn, then it just ends there, because check, and if king moves here, check, and this game is going to be really really ugly for black. Pushing the f pawn will lead to problems. But okay, a peculiar development here. A pawn sacrificed by Mukund. Oh, and Mukund blunders a piece. And a rook. This was very expensive for Mukund. Game heading south for Mukund. Very unfortunate. Now Yashas is up a whole rook and a pawn. Yashas's king is castled and pretty safe here, while Mukund is still in a dilemma, and now that he brought out his knight onto e7, this bishop can't be developed for at least another move. Now he's going after the pawn as well. He has to decide, he has to waste time to protect this pawn, and once he gets this bishop out, then only he can castle. So the king is going to be in the center for some time for now. And he blunders a pawn. Mukund blunders a pawn, and this is a fork. Oh my god. This is a fork, and he will lose his queen. This game nudging very very quickly towards the end. Yashas has to hang a whole queen or something in the middle of the game for Mukund to win this game. A very good move played here, and I don't think Vaishrujan Gowda, I don't think he can save all of his pieces at once, because if you choose to go back with the bishop, and this is going to win a piece. So the best bet here would be to just grab the knight here for 2 pawns, and that's not even going to be for 2 pawns, because after captures this attack is opened up, so that's not even going to be for 2 pawns. He'll have to, oh god, this seems very bad. He'll have to give up this guy, and now this is going to work. Completely in favor of black, and he plays it back. He puts it back, and now the maximum he can go for is 1 pawn for a piece. I think that is the better of the moves. And the queen was lost at this move. And Mukund now bringing his knight completely outside by its own. And now it's just going to be forced back to where it came from. And Mukund loses a lot of tempo on this move. Bhuvan Manjunath, a piece down. And now this knight is kind of tricky in this spot. If the bishop is deflected anywhere, then there is a fork here. So Yash is going for the center. Okay, and he pushes a pawn, which I think was kind of unnecessary here. But this knight is now trapped. And if it is attacked with a pawn, that knight has nowhere to go. So this spot is taken. This spot is taken by its own piece. Can't go here. So this knight is just lost now if he sees the move. But okay, so he allows. He's going directly for the mate here. Bhuvan lacking very much in development, and all of White's pieces are outside already, so shouldn't be a problem. I kind of like White's position better because an undeveloped piece is like a piece which is lost at this point, and Black is only up one piece for a pawn. And if White can use this momentum and strike in with an attack, then I think he can easily make use of the situation. Here Mukund wants to open up the file for Yashas's rook, and Yashas is very happy to do it. This game seems very dangerous for me. Just bring your king out, queen out here, and I don't see a way out of this position. I think in 2 to 3 moves this is going to be checkmate. But Yashas is trying to bring all his pieces for the attack. Now if the bishop is moved off this diagonal, the queen can directly enter with a check, and he moves it away. Alright, the queen can enter with check, and Black king will have very little moves. This is gone, this is taken away, the knight covers this square, and this is going to be almost, this is going to be checkmate. This is going to be checkmate. Because after the bishop interposes, you capture, and that's mate. That's quite surprising. And even now, this move was gonna be mate, but Yashas going for some. Okay, I'm not understanding what Yashas is doing here. This is a mate in 1. Mate in 2. We saw until this move, and the bishop has been moved safely to a7. And now the pawn is pinned. Bhuvan, understanding the pin behind the pawn, doesn't blunder the rook, but he safely protects it. I don't understand why Yashas is prolonging this game so much. I think he wants to mate without the queen or something. That's the only explanation I can give. Now after rook takes, this pawn hangs. If you even give up a piece to eliminate this pawn, you can just bring both your rooks into the game and it'll be a quick checkmate. Going with some tempo here. Players taking their time. When the first match has approached the end, on board 2 we are still in the opening. Kings are still on the center. And Strujan going for some pawn pushes. This pawn is going nowhere here with both of the bishops, the queen eyeing the square. If this rook is brought behind, then black will be forced to get out his queen and the queen will be stuck there protecting the pawn. I think that that pawn push was kind of unnecessary, and this pawn is completely safe here, well protected, and there is no piece even eyeing it. Okay, so a good choice by Mukund, not grabbing the pawns which are providing him shelter over there. If he grabbed them, then the rooks would become very, very active and it would be a checkmate very quickly. And he blunders the bishop at this point. Oh, sorry, I'm very sorry. It was not a blunder, it was an exchange. But now he grabs the pawn, and I don't think there is much. And now queen getting anywhere will just be made. But Yashas wants to prolong this game. Okay, instead of getting the rook behind, he wants to keep it on this file. Decent decision by Bhuvan. I'm not able to understand whether he is struggling for to checkmate, or he's prolonging the checkmate intentionally. And I think this game is nudging towards a stalemate. Yesterday, the Mukund had a very bad games with his stalemate, very bad day with stalemates. And in the first game, he was pretty much up material with Bhuvan, and when he was up a whole queen, two rooks or something, he went for he went to protect one of his pieces, and he just blundered stalemate, and so the half point was awarded, and that was the only half point in the game. Now only move for black, and I still don't see a checkmate in one move. And finally this pawn was eliminated. Bhuvan Manjunath very low on time. He has to hurry. And oh my god, I think it was a slip, or I'm not very sure. He, instead of castling, he just moves his rook away, and he prevents his own castling. And this is mate. After the rook interposes, this is checkmate. That's good game to Yashas, and he will be proceeding to the final, and we will see some more action in the final. Bhuvan Manjunath still very low on time, and Srujan with this battery aiming at the f2 pawn. Still the pawn hangs. Positionally, I feel why black is not trying to restrict this knight at any point. It's free to move completely, and black's bishops are pretty good. This bishop is pinning this pawn, which is doing a brilliant job, and now this pawn is going to fall. That is a nice move by Bhuvan, because if now queen takes and queen takes, your bishop can't take. Queen takes, then bishop can't take because this bishop will hang. But a check was given by Srujan, and now only one square for the king. Or going back is the best thing. He has to bring the other rook into the game. The only mistake made by Bhuvan was to not castle his king, and king is so bare open, and the rook itself is blocking the king's path, and that is going to be very bad for white. Bhuvan with 13 seconds on the clock. Now he'll have to survive on the increment. And he hangs the rook. Very unfortunate for Bhuvan. Hanging the rook, and if this rook moves, then he is threatening checkmate. Okay, seems like we will be seeing this pawn capture. I'm very anxious about that pawn capture though. I hope Srijan doesn't blunder mate here. And now edging towards safety, but he blunders this pawn. Still has some chances in the game. Bhuvan, if he gives up the attack, then I think that will be the end of the game for him. After captures here, wherever the king moves, he can still capture and keep an eye on the rook. And if no other checks are delivered in the next few moves, then yeah, I think captures would be the best move instead of moving the knight. Hope Bhuvan goes for it. Yes, and he has found the move. And if he had enough time and his king was safe, these two pass pawns look really dangerous to me. And he has blundered a piece. Srijan Gowda blundering a piece for captures here. Sorry, I'm very sorry. This is not a piece blunder, but the queen is still eyeing the square. Game is slowly slipping away from Bhuvan. I see a nice check here. Check there because the pawn is pinned. Bhuvan going for something I'm unable to understand. Okay, so this, yeah, I'm still not able to understand why Bhuvan went for this. And now if this rook moves, then all hell will break loose. Queen to f2 coming. Bishop to f2, okay. I feel queen to f2 would have been better. No, he just goes for a pawn grab. Simple, happy with it. Srijan just up too much material, giving away a lot of time for Bhuvan. Okay, in a bid to get the knight back to the defense. And this will be a very quick mate with such active rooks. Okay, Srijan simply prolonging the game. A check here and a check here, a check there. Maybe here. This would have been mate. Check here and this would have been mate. And now a check here will just pick up the queen in the same diagonal. Doesn't even need it, but still. Even now that will pick up the queen, and he goes for it. Does he pick it up? Does he go for mate? He just picks it up. Now I think Bhuvan should start giving up all his pieces. And I think that is what he's trying to do. The knight being pinned, the king being pinned, king is not able to move. And let's checkmate. Finally, Srijan Gowda delivers the checkmate. And he emerges victorious in the semi-final match. And we are going to have a finals between Yashas and Srijan. So Yashas with a clean mate here, with all the pieces, all of black's pieces off the board, and Srijan Gowda with a mate against Bhuvan here. And this could have been if he in case had gone for this pawn, and this was the only pawn which was available to move. It could have turned into a stalemate at any time. But a very good game played by both Bhuvan and Srijan Gowda. These players are very new to the sport, especially Bhuvan and Mukund, and they have been learning since 10 days. So the games that they are playing, I feel that's far more than what a player would play after learning it for 10 days. So with that said, these are the standings now. Yashas proceeding to the final will meet Srijan Gowda, and they will have a 2-game match. And whoever wins, if it's a clean win, we will be proceeding with it. And if it is not, then we will be jumping into Armageddon. I hope to see an Armageddon game today. We will be joining back in a few minutes. I'm very sorry. From then on, the live stream, the audio was muted. So we will be proceeding to the finals in any moment now. And the first two matchups were pretty unfair actually, because it was between Bhuvan Manjunath and Srujan and who was that? Yashas. Srujan and Yashas were players who have been playing chess for a long time now. And Mukund and Bhuvan have learned chess only for 10 days. So still, after learning chess for 10 days, I think they have played very brilliantly in this game. Especially pointing out to Mukund's game, Bhuvan's game here. Around this point, he could spot that the rook was pinned. So in this point, he could spot the rook was pinned, and he unpins it immediately. And that was a brilliance he showed by Bhuvan. And from this point on, and the game was almost even when he was a piece down, the game was kind of even for Bhuvan until this move. And after this move, he prevented his own castling, and this rook blocked this any way for safety for the king. So now, from this point on, an open file was created here. Bhuvan goes for this pawn push. And even though he could have captured with the pawn and maintained the position, he doesn't go to do this. Instead, he goes for this capturing with the bishop and blunders this pawn. And after this pawn blunder, a lot of queen checks came to play. Okay, the pawn wasn't grabbed immediately. Only after the bishop trade was happened, the pawn was grabbed. And from this point on, the king was very, very bare open, and a lot of checks followed, and he blundered a rook here, and this was the end of the game, unfortunately for Bhuvan Manjunath. And in Mukund versus Yash's game, we had a Giocopiano Italian game, and until this point it was going well. And after he blundered a pawn, he pushed the d pawn, and then he blunders the knight as well. And this knight blunder will come very costly, because it comes with a fork as well, and only after the bishop blocks he picks up the rook. And at this point he was up a whole rook, and until here it was Yashas just goes to develop his knight and threatens this capture of the pawn with a fork. And I think this was a pretty direct threat, but Mukund fails to see it, and I think he was mistaken about some of his piece protecting the pawn, and he gives up the pawn for the fork, and this just was completely losing. And after the queen was picked up, the game completely went southward. Goes for certain center breaks, and here the game, he could have ended the game very instantly. This was a mate in 2 moves. After this capture was made, because the bishop is cutting off this diagonal, the knight is covering this square, the queen herself is cutting off this diagonal, the pawn is beautifully covering these 2 squares, the rook is cutting off this whole file. So it was a quick mate here, but Yashas prolongs the game and exchanges all of black's pieces, and only after all the pieces are forced off the board, he delivers mate at this point. So this happened, and Srujan versus Yashas, the finals has kick-started. So let's go and check out the final game. The 2 games of the finals match. This is game 1, and they are going for a Rai Lopez, a classical Rai Lopez. And here, interesting developments. and Yashas grabs the pawn. I think that is not what we do here, because now he has given him a strong center while losing one of his own central pawns. Going for natural developments here. And he blunders a pawn. He does blunder a pawn. After captures, if you recapture with either the queen or the rook, this pawn will fall. Instead of this move, this knight takes seems interesting, but that is even more expensive, because after the knight takes and the queen pins the... Oh, actually, this would have worked. This would have really worked, and the entire center would have fallen off at this point in time if he had gone for this knight takes, and after queen pins this guy, the bishop could have recaptured the pawn, controlling him. And it would take a lot of time to attack this knight, because you can come here, I just push the pawn, or I can even just get the queen into action. I can just push the pawn here, and if you come here, I can just castle and unpin. I will lose one pawn for two of your central pawns, and I'll get a nice fight for my rook. I think this was a missed win for Yashas. There seems to be a minor issue here. We will come back anytime. Sujan has disconnected. He will come back anytime. Let's just try to spot if there was any other missed tactic here. Srujan has reconnected. And he misses in a bid. I think because of the disconnect, he had a. Now it's just a pawn exchange. Still, I don't see a very good way to protecting this pawn once the queen lands here. Now he can capture en passant, and that's a blunder as well. It's a pawn blunder. But he doesn't go for it, and the pawn is. These pawns will prove to be very fatal for white. He's going after this backwards pawn now, and Yashas misses it. He can just recapture with the knight, and he does so. Now this pawn is hanging, the rook is attacked, so this pawn will definitely fall. And these pawns are very much there towards queening. If black had a dark square bishop here, anywhere on c2, c7 or c5, then after queen takes the pawn, bishop to b6 would have been, he could have easily picked up the queen. Yesh is going for an unusual move here. This rook seems to be trapped. A simple pawn push would have picked up the rook. That rook was completely trapped. But is Srujan playing safe? He goes and picks up the pawn. I don't think there was any way to save the rook after this pawn push. Protected. Can't go there. This is protected there. Yeah, that rook was gone. Now, is there any way to protect the rook now? Now he can exchange the rook for two pawns if this pawn is pushed here. If this pawn is pushed, he can move the rook over to here, and yeah, takes, and this knight will be free to roam around. So it is just still Srujan will be up an exchange, and he does play the move. This game tilting towards the white completely, and I do not understand this move at all. Very sorry. So we just discussed that you can't pick up both the knights for the rook. So he just goes and grabs a pawn and then picks up the knight. Okay, fair decision by Srujan. And that pawn was still not picked up because now the king side structure is completely open. And he has to do something about the situation. Quickly reroute the bishop here and back to the square to protect himself. Or he can just go and pick up this pawn which is hanging. And I would even suggest a queen trade at this point in time. Although it will be a disadvantage for black with such a awkward king, I think the queen still on the board will be very dangerous for black. Okay, I still don't understand this. I don't see any threats with this check. After captures here, I don't see any threats with this check. And the knight has to go back. And I think black will be very happy with a perpetual. Yeah, black will be very happy with a perpetual. This is off limits. Okay, a check here and a pawn push here still wouldn't have done much. Now that the rook was brought into the game, this pawn is very well defended, and I don't think it's very hard to stop this pawn from queening. Okay, beautiful move by white here. I'm very sorry. It was not a great move. Now Srijan Gowda recapturing a piece, and now he has two pieces for a rook. Two pieces for a rook, but the white is leading by 3 whole pawns. But these are pawn islands. I think still they can be stopped, and he blunders this pawn, and now this pawn will fall. Now offering a queen trade, a wise choice by Srijan. And it's very hard to not accept this trade, because the queen has to stay here protecting the knight, and he'll have to completely deactivate his queen by going there or there, and his rook is hanging like awkwardly placed, and the queen out there, you can just check and fork the rook at any point. Even with the disconnect, Srijan Gowda doing fairly well with this game. And now bringing this rook out will prove to be very fatal, and there is no way to protect this piece. Either one of the pieces will be lost. And even a simple pawn push would have been enough to dislodge the queen, deactivate it, and now it's just lost. He can bring the king into the game. Can surely bring the king into the game. That's one way of protecting it. But once the king is brought into the game and the pawn is pushed, I don't understand this move. This comes with check as well, and I think this will be very quickly. This will be made. Only move here. He can bring this rook and force a trade here, then recapture. Yeah, that's what he's going for. And he could have even just grabbed the bishop there, and if the rook was deflected, this was made. Just to show you, this point if the rook was deflected, this would have been made. And and the queens successfully traded off the board. I don't like the idea of the queen trade happening at this point in time, because he had a clear checkmate. Srujan had a clear checkmate, going for the pawns. I think he can just ignore this and start pushing this pawn forward, because after any move, after a move like this, he can further increase the pressure on. Okay, actually this will be a good enough defense. This and then this takes one successful exchange, and then I would like to bring it back here, and wherever the bishop goes, not allowing the bishop to enter this file, or yeah, that would be the best moment. Then once the kings start entering the game, now you would not want to exchange your bishop, but this would be good. After takes, and after the king comes here, this king will be completely useless trying to block this pawn, and he can go for a pawn push here, or even this. If this, then just this will win the game, and whatever black does, the king can't stop two pass pawns. Srujan will have to make a major blunder to lose this game. And the blunder was made, but Yashas does not pick up the rook. Oh, this is disheartening. The blunder for the first case, and then Yashas does not pick up the rook. It was a clear whole rook. It was a whole rook, and it would have been just game over for, not game over for white still, because he would be up 3 pawns for the bishop and the knight pawn, but it would have at least been a draw. And now the bishop is lost. Oh my god. And now the king can't save. The king is completely cut off from the right side of the board, and only a stalemate can make Srujan Yashas win, draw the game. And now it should be a very quick checkmate. Yeah, Srujan limiting, and black has resigned the game. Yashas resigning the game. The first game goes to Srujan Gowda, and this was very bad to watch at this point. The rook was hung, and this was his chance to get back into the game, but he has missed it. And the first game goes to Srujan Gowda. So we will be seeing the second match, and if Srujan wins this game, we will have a clear winner of the tournament, and if Yashas wins it, we will be heading into Armageddon to witness some more action. So that has been the game. We will be joining back in a short while. Okay, so we are back after the first game of the finals, and Srujan clinches the first victory. And now we are proceeding with the second game, where Srujan is playing with the black pieces and Yashash with the white. E4, E5 on the board. Knight to F3. mason attack structure. And here he goes for f4, f5. I don't like this at all. I don't like this at all. And Yashas going for the lateral attack over here. Although this pawn was gambited, and he blunders the knight, and he blunders the knight. And yet he doesn't want to grab the gambited pawn. And this is checkmate. This is checkmate. The bishop was eyeing the f2 square. Very, very unfortunate for Yashas, and a very quick ending to the game. 4-move checkmate missed. Sorry, not a 4-move checkmate, but this is like the scholars made, and this has been missed by Yashas. And we have arrived at the end of the finals in a not a very pleasant manner, but the game sure has ended, and we have a victor. So Strujan has won the Yeetkere Invitational finals, and it's a well-deserved victory, but not in a very challenging manner. Although they were very competent players, it was not it just wasn't the day for Yashas, and sometimes it happens. So good game by Yashas and Strujan. Yashas remains at the second place. Strujan grabs the first place, and after in a short while we will start up with the match for the third place. That will be between Bhuvan Manjunath and Mukund, and we will be starting that in any moment now. Any moment we will be starting off with that game. The match for third place is underway between Bhuvan Manjunath and Mukund, and this will be a very fair match because both of the players, point to be noted, is they have learned chess for 10 days and only for 10 days. And let us see what is going to happen in this game. And as you can see, their tallies until now have been half to half. That was in the first game of first preliminaries, where Mukund stalemated Bhuvan while being up on material more than plus 20 points. This will be the final game of Yeetkere Invitational to determine the third place winner. So, field or defense. Mukund goes for the field or defense, and Bhuvan doesn't go for a strike in the center. Sorry, he should have developed the knight for the strike in the center. So he just going for his fianchetto, and Mukund trying to counter this fianchetto with one of his own. And a very weird development here by Bhuvan Manjunath. This usually gets you into a lot of trouble. Mukund preventing his own castling king side, and he has done no other moves other than pawn pushes in this game. I hope this game doesn't end with a fool's mate. Interesting move, but he is provoking Bhuvan to push the pawn there. It would have been a very good outpost for the bishop if the pawns weren't present there. Now I think this is not a very good move, because after the bishops are traded off, this pawn chain is cut. King's F line is open. So white has gone for a king's gambit. And a very weird move for white here, because now he has got this move in place, and with this check you will have to move away the king, because this will grab a lot of pieces, and if you grab it with the queen, then this, okay, the knight is keeping an eye on the pawn, so this is not that much of a threat right now. Not leading to anything. So Mukund not going for it, just defends his pawn peacefully, and now the only difference between these two bishops here is that this pawn is very crucial, because the bishop can guard its own diagonal, but the pawn, there is no entry point for the bishop. Attack on the bishop. And now he goes for the move. And I think now it is very interesting, and it was a very good tactic by Mukund. And now the knight hangs. If he doesn't miss this, the knight is just hanging. That's a rather very interesting tactic, and he doesn't miss it. So we are still not out of action, and this move further pins this pawn, because the queen hangs. So you can't capture the pawn. Brilliance is shown by Mukund. The one who was lacking in development now has a lot of pieces out, and he himself is threatening a lot of things. Now this capture is also pretty dangerous. So Yashas and Bhuvan are battling out for the third place, as we mentioned before, and now a pawn has been blundered by white, and I do not understand the reason for this. Oh, that is a very beautiful move by Bhuvan. Very beautiful move by Bhuvan. And now the rook is lost. Now the rook is lost indeed. That's a nice spot by Bhuvan. I am pretty frightful of this position here because you'll have to move off your knight because this knight, there's no piece which can come directly into the protection of this knight, or you'll have to actually start marching with your king inside, because after takes this is the only way you can save your knight as of now. Or yeah, I don't see any other way in which you can save your knight, or you'll have to march your queen. Yeah, this would be a better option, but this captures here is worth noticing, because now again this knight is pinned but it is protected. Again this knight is pinned but protected. This is something worth noticing. After takes here, you will have to push this pawn to protect it. Wow, and after the knight was moved, Bowen not letting go of any chance, not giving him any chance, and because this knight is in the way, the rooks can't be connected. If this knight was out of the way, somewhere in this position, if the knight was out of the way and this capture was played, even if this is protecting you, sorry, I'm very sorry for this. So you can get my point. If this knight was, this king move would have connected the rooks and the rook would have been safe. But now that the knight is blocking the way, the rook will be lost. The rook will indeed be lost. And now certain interesting moves are being played. And Bowen jumping right back into the game. Now he is up a whole rook. He is up a whole rook. And this game is proving to be challenging, quite challenging. Bowen safely castling his pieces. At this position, I feel that it is kind of a mistake, because this bishop could have been picked up instead of castling by playing this move here. Attacking the bishop yet again. And once the knight was brought out, still there is not much hope for white here, although this check seems to be very interesting, because after this check you push the pawn, there's no use, so you will have to move the king, and after the king moves, this is mate. No, this is almost mate. This is still not mate, but this would have given him a lot of material advantage though. I don't see a clear mate here, but this was very interesting. And now both sides castle to safety. But while castling, Mukund blunders a knight. And a piece. So everything falling apart from this point on. Everything falling apart, and now the rook is directly under attack. I hope he sees. No. It is not a blunder. Yeah, it is not a blunder. He quickly recovers from this. And now you cannot grab the rook because the queen is hanging. And once the queen is taken, the rook will be out of harm's way. So that is a good recovery by Mukund. And now the queen, which is out of the game completely, returns back to the game. And now a very beautiful move by Bhuvan Manjunath, creating a barrage on this piece here while the bishop is attacking f1. So now the rook will be forced to move, and the pawn is severe weakness here. Okay, Mukund completely missing this. Let's see if Bhuvan grabs hold of this opportunity. But the opportunity has been missed. Now does Mukund do something to recover this? Oh my god, he blunders the pawn now. I hope Bhuvan grabs it. No, he goes for another pawn. Interesting. And now this pawn is falling apart. This pawn is falling apart. And once this pawn falls apart, okay, he decides to bring the rook into the game. I'm not in complete acceptance of that move, because now he can start defending this pawn either by double pushing it, or doing something, or he can even attack the queen. Oh no, he cannot attack the queen here, because once he does so, this will come with a pin of the bishop, and it will be neatly picked up. After this point, in this move, the bishop will be picked up. The bishop will definitely be picked up. So he goes and defends it this way, but still it is going to fall. And instead of grabbing the piece, he goes for the rook. And now Mukund recovering back from this. This was still a decent move, because after this he could have just picked up the rook, picked up the pawn with check here. And here it was almost completely lost. For this check, would have brought the other rook into the game, and this was almost completely lost for black. But the game takes a different turn, and he gives up the rook. He gives up the exchange and trades off the rook for the bishop. Now the king seems fairly safe, but once the trades are done, the endgame should go easily to Bhuvan if he decides to not stalemate Mukund and deliver checkmate. A good idea is to just go for the pawn grab. He doesn't go for it even now, and the queen is just stuck there doing nothing. And he's going after the bishop now. Zeroing down, all pieces zeroing down on the pawn. and he hangs the queen. Oh my god, the queen has been hung, and this is a lost game for Mukund. Okay, in good sportsmanship spirit, they have sent a take back, and the take back has been accepted, and we will witness the end of the game. Probably it was a misclick. A better move in this position would be to just plant the bishop there, because once this pawn fell, this was a direct threat there. So he had to do something like this, and he could even give up this guy here and traded off everything. Still he'd be up a piece. Nah, he wouldn't go for that, but still. Mukund doesn't want to save his pawn, but he is going for moves that I am unable to understand here. This game is very near checkmate. Now a good tactic here would be to place the bishop there and threaten checkmate here, because if the bishop is captured, then this is this is not mate. Go for this, and after this I don't see very good proceedings in this game. Can go for this. I'm sorry, I've been hanging the queen right from the previous move. This is not that good of a move. Oh, why? Oh, I'm very sorry. This is a good continuation. This is checkmate. This is indeed checkmate. After this and this, it's checkmate because the bishop is pinned. The bishop is pinned. This is checkmate. And here, Bhuvan with a brilliancy just picking up the queen. And once the queen, and he blunders checkmate. Now this is just checkmate. Bhuvan need not grab the queen as well, and this is just going to be checkmate. Bhuvan taking his time, not rushing things. I think Mukund is going for a stalemate here. After trading this off, somehow he might go for a stalemate. But still, with these pawns around, it is really hard. And Bhuvan Manjunath is not interested in any of his pieces, and he is directly going for a mate here. But this now seems avoidable. With this, now he's threatening mate over here, and this should sort out all of his issues. And then this move to ward off the queen. And that is checkmate. And that is checkmate. So we have arrived at the end of the game. The game took a different turn, and from this point on, he doesn't go for this queen move to save the game. And even after this point, this being checkmate, Bhuvan doesn't go for it. goes for some material, and only after this move he delivers a very beautiful and smooth checkmate. So we have the end of the last game of this tournament, and at the first place is Shujan Gowda, winning both of his games in the finals, and second place goes to Yashas Paisa, and the third place goes to Mukund. So this being the final result, Yashas and Srujan brawled out for the final match, and Srujan has emerged victorious. The third place match was between Bhuvan and Mukund, and Bhuvan has emerged victorious. So it has been a nice tournament since till now, and we've had some interesting matches. Not very accurate matches, but they have been entertaining at the least. And we were able to promote the sport very well while encouraging all our friends to learn chess, and while teaching them for 10 days. And Bhuvan and Mukund have played really well after learning only for 10 days, and this is something which we should really appreciate. And along with them, even Harshit, Siddharth, and Yash, they've all put a lot of effort to learn chess, and I think a lot of chess enthusiasts emerged out of this tournament. That was our main goal. So with this, we are ending the tournament here, and thank you all for watching. Thank you guys for participating. Have a nice day.